have too much tonight to say, no chair update. Except that myself and the board are looking forward to Dr. Mayo's presentation later this evening to help us understand the corrective action being taken to resolve issues highlighted at previous BOE meetings in the high school. I would also like us to take a moment of reflection for the brave people of the Ukraine. Okay, now citizens' comments. I'm open the floor to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments at this time? Hearing none. I'd also like to state I'm happy that we're back in the middle school media center. We feel like a closer group. I can see everybody and we feel closer together. I hope the meeting's much more productive with us being closer.
Is there any message out there from?
I don't see a chat, but Danielle's keeping track of that too, right? Or do you want to move that over here, or would it be better? I don't know if it can move that. Oh, okay.
No, don't move it.
Well, I know Amy's on. We've got a few people on Zoom joining us, so. Okay. The next one is our student spotlight and our other lady member.
Each month, Charlotte Memorial High School Student Spotlight Program recognizes a student who has demonstrated outstanding achievement, character, leadership, attitude, and/or contributes to the school and community. February's Student Spotlight honoree is our own Board of Ed liaison, Zainab Bajoun. Zainab was nominated by fellow peers Joel Majorowski and Chloe Manzo, as well as library media specialist Ms. Ouellette. Joel says about Zainab, Zainab does so much for the school. She is always involved in so many extracurricular activities such as FBLA, basketball, town recreation, town politics, student leadership, student council, National Honor Society, and she is a young cultural ambassador and BOE liaison. She is super active and is always extremely kind and caring. Plus, her accomplishments are insane. She always studies and she always does what she's supposed to do. She has personally helped me with a lot of things and helped me learn new things that I never even knew about. Chloe Manzo also remarked on Zainab's involvement in the school and community, as well as her accomplishments, adding, "I never knew her until this year when we had study hall together. At first, I didn't talk to her because she was always busy doing work. The first time I talked to her, I asked her to help me with my English project because I needed help. She explained it to me and helped me understand what I needed to do. I got a 97 on the assignment. I honestly thank her for that grade because she didn't do my work for me. Instead, she really made sure I understood what I needed to do. I'm glad I got to know her this year and hear all about her success." Mrs. Ouellette adds, "Zainab has been a strong leader in her school community for almost 4 years and has contributed immensely to her school. She is an excellent representative for the student body of TMHS. When asked what motivates her, Zainab says, knowing the more I work at being successful, the more likely I am to fulfill my goals." Besides being an excellent student, Zainab is one of 2 Thompson Board of Education student liaisons. She is also the captain of the TMHS girls basketball team and a member of several school organizations. Zainab also works at the Thompson Town Hall as the social media and marketing intern and is a cultural ambassador for the American Turkish Association of Washington, D.C. About her future, Zainab plans to pursue a degree at George Washington University to become a diplomat or legislator. Finally, Zainab's message to her school and community is, "Though my time at Turtelot is coming to an end, I am more than grateful for the opportunities that TMHS and the Thompson community have provided me with."
Okay, so that's a little hard to follow up, but I guess I will present you guys with the March Board of Education report. So as for current events, it's Music in Our Schools Month. Track, baseball, and softball are going to kick off their season shortly. Preparations are beginning for Beauty and the Beast. March 8th was Red Cross Blood Drive. March 9th was the Turtelot Student Leadership In-Service. March 10th, the National Honor Society's volunteers helped at the parent-teacher conferences. March 16th, TMHS students participate in Why Am I Lucky, sponsored by SSA. March 17th will be PSATs, and it's also Wear Green Spirit Day. March 23rd is SATs. March 25th is the premiere of the Beauty and the Beast production. March 29th, the TMHS students vote on their favorite Voice for Change proposal. And as far as student voice forms go, we only had one. A student wrote about the cold temperatures in classrooms, and the student noted that although this issue has been brought up several times, many classrooms remain uncomfortably cold, with many students resorting to wear their winter coats in class. The members of student council agreed, stating that both the new and old sections of the high school have been uncomfortably cold this year.
All right, I have a question for you. Did either of you know what today is?
It's Pi Day.
Pi Day?
Okay, and how many digits can you take?
Oh, gosh. Not it.
Nope.
You want to phone a friend? You can't ask Siri.
You know what pi is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the numerical factor of pi?
3.14.
Yeah, okay, and you can't go any further than
Nope.
that? Oh, no, I can go 4.
That's very impressive. Couldn't be me.
3.1415, that's it.
Isn't it
Okay.
1.1, what is it, 1579 or 97?
159,732.
Yeah, it is.
41527 something.
Moving
Oh,
things
my
forward.
eyes. Okay, that was just a moment of levity,
That's
thank you
cool.
very much. Okay, having heard from our student liaisons, we'll move on to the minutes, approval of minutes. First one to be approved is the tri-board meeting that was held on February 3rd.
One at a time.
Or you,
It's up to you.
we can do them together if that makes more sense.
I'll make a motion to accept all 4 meetings.
And I'll second. Okay, then we have a motion on the floor to accept all 4 of the minutes from the previous meetings, February meetings. And the second? Okay, any discussion on any of these minutes? Hearing no discussion, I'll put the motion to the floor. To approve the meetings of minutes of February 3rd, February 14th, February 23rd, and February 28th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. This evening, we had our first meeting of the Subcommittee, Communication Subcommittee, and I'm going to call on Heather Santos to give us a brief update.
Yep, so we met today to kind of kick off that process. We've discussed various ways to kind of get the information out to taxpayers about the budget, what is in the budget, what the budget drivers are, and obviously not to forget to vote. Different ways that we were going to do that, either through social media, through flyers, possibly other methods as well. We also wanted to indicate not only those things, but also to highlight some of the positive things that this Thompson Public Schools has to offer, and where their budget dollars are kind of shining in our school system. Lastly, we also tried to discuss whether we wanted to kind of initiate or bring back a monthly communication from the Board of Ed, whether it be through the Villager or whether it be through other forms of media, but we were wanting to do something like that as well.
Thank you. Now I'm going to, yes.
You want me to do an update on alumni and
Oh,
the trust?
alumni,
or-
sure, if you
Yeah.
have one.
So the alumni committee, the Alumni Association met this week. There's multiple action items with the alumni right now. One of them being we're going to be manning the concession booth at Beauty and the Beast all 3 nights. 3 nights?
3 nights.
3 nights. Okay. In addition to that, we are organizing and reorganizing the upstairs room where we currently are, and come to find out, there's a potential ghost in the room.
Cool.
Mr. Birch. Two of our members, we don't know if it is Mrs. Turtelot, or I brought up the fact that maybe it's Joe Lindley. We're not sure yet, but the ghost is playing some tricks on some of our stuff up there.
Neat.
No, it's not. So I said Deb Spinelli would gladly take care of that, and see how she was a. Yeah.
Maybe Deb Spinelli.
So anyway, so that's a little levity there, but the big issue right now for the Alumni Association obviously is how we plan for what used to be Career Day, and we're trying to come up with some different opportunities for the students in the engagement. So the president, Amy LeVake, will be reaching out to, I believe, some of the principals and seeing how we can get that message back out there. The second thing is we're talking about having a big Turtelot alumni reunion. I think they saw the success of the senior class, what just happened with the fundraiser that they did. So my band will be donating the music. We will play at the event. Now we're just trying to find a place that's going to be big enough to hold it. So that's one of our big opportunities coming with the Alumni Association. Plus we're looking to do Memorial Day again, having all the alumni march in conjunction with the school. So we'll be reaching out to people regarding that. As for the Turtelot Trust, Bill Birch and I have walked the grounds, we've taken pictures. The window project has a minor delay for its completion. We reordered 3 windows, Bill? 4, okay. We had to reorder 4 windows. It's basically at the expense of the contractor. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's 16...
10 to 22 weeks.
10 to 22 weeks. So 16 weeks is probably fair. I think it's going to be more like 18 to 20. It is what it is, and unfortunately, there's a lot of things going on in the world, as we all know, which is driving that even before when we had the delays. The good news is we're still on budget. So the other thing is, if you look at the windows in the school now, the upper tier are brown, the bottom tier are a beige. If you go around to the side of the building on the far north end, you will see the same situation. When the boards were pulled off, the original color was exposed, which is beige. The windows that we have been painted brown. The board, majority of the board, we want to bring it back to beige. So there will be a repainting so it brings it back so it's aesthetically, architecturally correct. We're also going to be fixing the entryway, which requires some masonry and some sealing of cracks that are there. It's becoming dangerous when you walk. So that will be taken care of. So when it's all said and done, when you roll up the changes on the window, the changes to be repainted, and some credits back, we are about 4,000-ish in the positive. Is that about right? Along with the masonry?
About that.
So we don't feel we have to go back to the Board of Trustees for any additional funding from the change orders that we've all approved. In addition to that, what we did for next year's budget is we put a $250,000 placeholder, which is money that we take out of our trust in order for improvements for the 1909 building. We may not use it all. There's some years we haven't, and then there's other years that we have. So we use it as a placeholder. You're going to see it in the budget, and it'll be talked about because that's go amongst, in front of the Board of Finance. I think, is that it?
That's it.
Perfect. Bill did show me the 1909 clock, and if you ever want to see a work of masterpiece, thinking of what they had to do back then to make things work, it's pretty impressive. Very impressive. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Tom. That was a very comprehensive update. Thank you very much. Okay, I will turn the meeting over now to Superintendent Smith with the enrollment update.
Before I get into enrollment, however, if you didn't know, March is School Board Appreciation Month.
Right.
And so on behalf of the students in Thompson, along with the principals, the directors, the faculty and staff, we wish to acknowledge and thank the 9 members of our Board of Education for the countless hours they've devoted to our district. With their guidance and wisdom, we are all working to implement the goals of the Thompson Public Schools Portrait of a Graduate, that all Thompson students graduate with independent skills, acquire the knowledge necessary for college and career, and remember to remain community connected. So happy School Board Member Month to our Board of Education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as enrollment goes, we currently have 927 students. That's up 2 students from last month. At Mary R. Fisher, we have 417 students. That's an additional 3 students. At the middle school, we have 293 students. That's an additional 1 student. And then at the high school, we have 217 students, which is a reduction of 2 students. We currently have 68 students homeschooled, and we're holding steady with out-of-district placements at 27, but I do know from Mr. Jones that that number is going to change very shortly to 28. So that is enrollment. As far as COVID is concerned, I'm gonna ask Shannon to give a little COVID overview. She has actually been able to sleep, I think, over the last week or 2. Shannon?
I don't want to jinx it.
I know, I don't want to jinx it either.
So the month of March, I've had 1 reported case.
Wow.
February, probably the last 2 weeks of February, I had 1 case. Everybody's got their masks off for the most part. Those that want to wear them are wearing them. Just seeing how things are going, I guess.
We still do, Shannon is spearheading weekly testing for those parents that want their children tested. So there's about 95 students, right, that
Yeah.
get tested every week.
Yeah.
And the state finally expanded that to include the teachers. So there are a few teachers that are participating in that as well. And we're gonna have, I think, our final vaccination clinic this Friday from 4 to 6 for any families that are interested in that. We did do a quick survey, and about 50 families said they'd be interested, so we'll see. We just want to offer those things as a service, and we're not necessarily promoting them. We're offering them as sheer service, as a convenience to our families.
And so those 2 last weeks of testing has been clear.
That's right, that's right. There was no positive cases in that pool
Yeah.
of testing, so.
Yeah. The vision van's coming, starting tomorrow.
That's right.
So the kids in the high school are all having their comprehensive eye exams, because they had already been screened. I think there's roughly about 62 students that are gonna have exams. They're here Tuesday through Friday, from 8:30 to 1:30, I think. The van will be parked outside of the entrance by my office. There's a lot of kids looking forward to that, actually, which is kind of interesting, because they've been asking me about it.
They get to pick out their if they
Yeah.
fail the exam, they pick out their glasses, and then they should be here in a few weeks to get their glasses. And then I think we have May dates for the middle and elementary.
Just one quick question on the enrollment. Do we, I think I would have thought that the numbers would have gone up more once we lifted the mask mandate. Has there been any discussion, or are they staying out until the end of the year and gonna start fresh next year?
We did have some students come back from homeschool. It's just that with the ins and outs, that's not really reflected there, but we
Yeah.
did have, I know off the top of my, 3, I know for certain that came back from homeschool, even though the number only reflects 1.
But not a big swing?
Not a big swing, and maybe that's because they are waiting it so far into the school year, I don't know. Maybe they're waiting till after not sure, but, and maybe they made other, maybe homeschooling is working for them, so. And then the final, end of my report, I've asked Dr. Mayo, and Abby Consolo, who is our student support coordinator at Turtle Memorial High School, to, give us an update on, the work that they've been doing since, Dr. Mayo has taken over as principal at the high school. I think you're gonna be impressed with the amount of work that's happened at the high school, and he's gonna give us some good statistics of what's been going on. So, Dr. Mayo and Abby?
You're good.
I think I should move you.
Yeah.
I've seen it already this morning. So you're gonna need to get Look, the people are gonna see you, Nate, so you need to go up there.
Alright, so, this is just actually title screens. Just to let everyone know what I kind of entered into. On the first day, coming in, which is like August 20, was the day before, first day of school, when I first day of the job. There was a stack of withdrawals, on my desk, about yay big. In investigating, I found that forms that parents and students had to sign to withdraw, but there was no formal process. I talked to the members of the school. I said, did we have parent meetings? Did we go through interventions and supports and things like that? And I got a lot of blank stares. Where I came from, there was a pretty thorough process before you drop out. So I was a little bit shocked to see that we had no process in place. There was no supports or interventions in place for students prior to withdrawal. So it wasn't no plan making, anything like that, as far as trying to keep kids in school. The first few students that I met, and this is the first day of intercession in August, I was down doing cafeteria duty. I tried to introduce myself to as many kids as I could. They introduced themselves as repeat students. After looking at the situation, I uncovered many repeat students with no plans put in place as far as getting them back to grade level. And those of you know, if a student labels themselves as something, that's not a good thing. So if they start thinking I'm a repeat, that's like saying I'm dumb, I can't do it, or whatever. So we don't ever want any child to label themselves. So I immediately went out, started talking to my counselor, started talking to a bunch of different people, and said, what are we doing? How are we getting these kids back to grade level? And again, I got some blank stares. And just a bottom thing, just for a stat for everyone, students retained only 1 year are a third more likely to drop out, which is what you're seeing as we get to the graduation rate. They're just not getting to graduation. So in that intersection, I met with a group of students who were retained and called their parents and began setting up supports over August intercession, whether it be doing some extra work here, trying to make up a grade here. The number was large, and it was at this time that I realized I could not do this on my own. To let you know, when I walked in, there was 42 retentions. 221 students, that's 1/5 of the student body at Total on High School, was being retained. That's not good. I realized in order to fix the issues facing the school, I would need to reorganize my responsibilities. I was doing this was taking my entire day in August during intercession. I couldn't do anything else. I was trying to meet parents, trying to get on the phone, trying to get kids. I did nothing else but that, and toward the end of intercession, I was exhausted. I also realized I couldn't maintain this for the rest of the year. There was just too many other things that needed to be done. So I was able to utilize funds available through the Alliance to create the Student Support Coordinator position and hire Ms. Abby Consolo. The position was also approved by the state as a needed support to increase student success. So before even getting the money, I had to present the plan to the state. They approved the plan, issued me the money so I could get at it. Okay, and just to let you know, Abby's doing a lot of what I would have done as an assistant principal in another building, or I would have had counselors do, or would have been split up among a team. So that's kind of what her role is. These are our numbers. In 2016, you were at 97.3%, 2017, 90, 2018, 84, 2019, 84, a little bit lower, 2020, 87, 2021, 78.6. 22.4, if I got that right, or maybe 21.4 of your student body did not graduate on time. Let me be very clear about what the graduation rate is. The first year you come in as a high school student on October 1st, that is your graduating cohort. So the clock starts on October 1st of your first year. So if you get retained, you're still in that previous cycle. So you have 4 years from October 1st of your first year in high school to graduate. That's when the clock starts. That's how you get your 4-year cohort. Okay? So over those 4 years, you lost 22%. Okay, in this year's graduation cohort, the 2021, 7 students this upcoming year, this year, 7 students dropped out or went to GED program. GED program in any state is counted as a dropout because you do not get a high school diploma at the end. So if you leave high school, you go to GED, it's just as good as a dropout. Counts against the school. In 2022, just to let you know, 11 students have dropped out or gone to a GED program. And I say that to you because I need everyone's expectations to be realistic. Yes, I brought in Abby, yes, we're fixing things, but we're already starting out of the gate. We've tried to re-engage these students over the fall and try to get as many of these as we could back in. And it's been, to be honest with you, I've gotten a lot of statements from parents as previous high school administration failed me, why do I trust you? That's what I did for Facebook. 42 students were retained coming into the school year. No plans, as I said before, for struggling retained students. Students who do not, this is another piece that we found out, students who did not meet the state mandated graduation requirements were allowed to participate in graduation, many of which never returned to complete their missing coursework. So opened up a file in the main office. I said, why are there a bunch of diplomas in this file? I was told, oh, we let them walk, just that we went on a word that they'd come back and finish, and they never did. A, that's illegal, you can't do that. Because there's a part of the graduation in which you state that the student has met the graduation requirements in the state of Connecticut. B, there's no motivation there for them to come back. So, fixing the graduation rate. What I did was I hired Ms. Consolo as the student support coordinator. Every student who was or is behind grade level has a plan. She set up with the students, their families, and staff to get back to grade level. She's going to talk to you in a minute about what she's done, what her results are so far. She monitors those plans daily. So she's in constant contact with the parents of the students that are behind grade level, and she's in constant contact with teachers, getting updates on where they are with their plans. Ms. Mazzola works with special education department and Dr. Jones to make sure that all students' accommodations are being met and that all special education students are receiving appropriate supports. The most glaring stat that I didn't put on here, because I have a hard time looking at it myself, is that only 40% of your special ed students graduate on time when they enter total line. 60% do not graduate on time. We're failing our special ed population. And that's why Ms. Consolo was here to help us with that as well. Alternative offerings are given to students due to lack of funds for night school, Saturday school. We don't have the same opportunities, or our students don't have the same opportunities as if they went 10 miles down the road, to be honest with you. So we have to get creative. We're using Apex, it's a state-issued online learning platform, in order to remedy some of these classes that our students are behind. Okay? That's of no cost to any district. So as Connecticut put it out, that's a cost-effective measure. Okay, here's some issues that are addressed that are contributing to our graduation rate. Chronic absenteeism, okay, which is a percent of students who miss at least 10% of the total school days, so a minimum of 18. In 2020, 17.1% of our student body missed a minimum of 18. That was the last, and you may hear more about different data points. That was all the way from September to March. That's when COVID hit. To be honest with you, to go off any of the numbers over COVID or at this time, it's not a true number, so I went with the number of the last. And in talking to the state today, they agreed that those numbers can be skewed. So we went off this. Caroline Karabenikoff, she's our school social worker, is also taking over as attendance officer. She's going to work with me. We're actually going to work with one of my security guards as well to do home visits, and we put together some supports there for those families. In addition to Teague, so Teague's going to be helping us as well. She chairs the attendance committee made up of student support coordinator, student counselor, school psychologist, school nurse, me, and the liaison from Teague. Contracts are created as well, just in this position, for each student who is trending to a chronic, and Ms. Karabenikoff monitors those contracts. Teague supports all contracts with transportation, home visits, appropriate awards for corrective behavior, etc. Student engagement. This is a big issue too, and I don't know if you've heard about what we're doing with the pathway. So I was able to negotiate a deal with QVCC. We're the only high school in the area that will be offering QVCC classes during the school day. All of the high schools will have to do them at night. We'll have the opportunity to offer 9 credits each semester So 9 in the fall, 9 in the spring. This is in conjunction, I'm right now in talks with Anna Maria College. I'm also in talks with Eastern Connecticut and UConn. So we're gonna be adding in different college pathways for our students. They'll be able to get college credits during the school day. As well as we're adding in vocational areas. So we are not a vocational high school, but we want to make sure that we have these pathways put in for our students that engage them. We want students, a lot of the electives, to be things that they're excited about, things that bring them to school. You know, and I know we've talked about culinary, we've talked about law, we've talked about a number of different areas that we're looking at adding into our school. And that's all through, the reason why we're utilizing colleges, cost effective. Their professors are teaching these classes. We don't have to up cost our more teachers, we don't have to do any of this. They're gonna eat a lot of the cost. As part of the Pathways model, we'll be incorporating job shadowing and cooperative education opportunities with guidelines for participation. Those of you who don't know, Mike Joyce, who was our technology teacher, he just became certified as of last week, I believe, to be a co-op teacher, which means he can oversee anyone going out and get credits while they're on the job. So we just got that certification last week. We will take an analytical focus on lesson plans and educational activities to assure a marriage between rigor and student engagement is taking place. Some classes I've walked into are great. Students are up, getting involved or whatever. I'm gonna be honest with you, some of the classes I've walked into, it's a good thing I was standing up, because it might be a little bit tough. So I'm working on that as well. Okay, school family connection. We redid our school governance council, so we re-engaged that. Actually, Ms. Herbert's on that with us. The compact will be coming shortly, so we're finishing that hopefully this week. That might be a little bit of a pie in the sky, I wish, we'll see. We're meeting this week as well. The compact is a relationship between the school and the community, families. It's actually something that the Department of Ed wanted from the school district back in 2018, and it didn't get done. So in taking over the school governance, that was the first area I wanted to attack. It was something that we listed as missing. So we're working on that, we're fixing that, but that hopefully will reestablish a positive relationship between the school and its community. Teachers are now given time to contact families with struggling students, and the expectation is that all teachers will continually update family of students in danger of failing, in hopes these communications can help jumpstart a student to a passing grade. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to teachers, and this is part of our mindset we're trying to change, and they said they're adults. They're not adults. The brain's not fully formed till 26. I don't want to hear they're adults. Families need to be involved. Opportunities are given for students who did not hand in work to complete work past the deadline for partial credit. The other piece that I came into was it's a hard deadline. Regardless of what the student situation is, it's a hard deadline. It's not a hard deadline anymore. We don't give out grades. I've never believed in give out grades, but we give out opportunities. That's all I ask for my students. We give out opportunities. As a community focusing on a growth mindset and ensuring that we are teaching all students and that a student's failure impacts us all, we're trying to adjust our mindset for some people. Here we go. Additional supports. We are anchoring all interventions and supports through Portrait of a Graduate, specifically independent and knowledgeable. All right, we're coming up with our supports. Those are the two columns we're really focusing on, because those are the ones that fit what we're trying to do. The collaboration of all three principals assures support for every level in the district. I work with Principal Prentice and Principal Granado, and the three of us work together on a lot of things that we're doing at the high school, because it has to feed down. They have to understand what's going on in the high school, so it gets fixed from the elementary school coming up. And I'm very lucky that I have a very good relationship with the other two principals, and we are extremely collaborative. We are reinstituting the leadership team, the data team, and even the school governance council, as I said earlier. We'll continually analyze and alter interventions and supports to assure student success. Brainstorming sessions with other ECC principals. In fact, I have one tomorrow morning, in which all the Northeast principals get on a call, we're all on a Zoom, and we kind of go back and forth about things that we're facing, and it turns into a brainstorming session, which I found very productive. Realistic expectations. While we are currently trying to attempt to re-engage students who have dropped out, we must be realistic as to the turnaround time of the new initiatives. It's not going to happen for this graduating class. It's not. Unfortunately, it's not. And anything you read will tell you it's 3 to 5 years. I'm not happy in 3 to 5 years. It gets me itchy thinking where we're at right now. So we're trying to get it in place as quickly as we can, but it's just not going to happen for the class of 2022. The window for a systematic change is generally 3 to 5 years. We're hoping for major changes in 2. Once we get the new supports and protocols in place and the bugs worked out, they should take root and the changes should be immediate. We take this very seriously. This is one of the things that I kind of keep hitting with my staff. We take this very seriously. We do not want a single student to slip through the cracks. everyone at Tortola must be successful. And I'm gonna hand it over to Abby.
I don't know why it's so big, but that's okay. We'll just move on to the next slide. Okay, so the point of me presenting tonight was I just wanted to show you what I've been trying to do to help our students. So I was hired at the end of October, so I started getting to know my students. I was given 42 students when I started that were retained. I took that time to meet with the students and introduce myself to the parents to try to get to know them. Then what I did from there is speak to their teachers, because I was new, wanted to get to know the staff as well to find how I can help the students. Since then, my caseload in March is continuing to grow a little bit. However, I've gotten 22 students to be back on grade level from that 42 number. Yes, I've had a few added, but that would be more that they were just failing one class. So it's not as extreme as what it was. And what I do with the ones that are now passing and back on grade level, I just monitor them and still check in with them weekly to make sure that they're still succeeding, and if they are struggling somewhere, I'm there to help. And I still am in communication with their families as well to let them know how they are doing. So how I do that is, this is the first thing. I start with the student, meet them one-on-one, see where they are missing assignments, and I try to look at what's the most important assignment versus the not as important, so a major and a minor assignment. The majors are the ones that we focus on the most, and typically when I talk to them, we only pick 3 assignments to start, because if they're gonna look online at their Tyler account or their Google, they're gonna see so much and it's too overwhelming for them. And so then what we do is, once this is created with them, this is sent home to the parents so they know where they are, and this is also given to each of their teachers. This is also created with their teachers as well. Then we decided to start a student academic contract. And so the first semester, it was more just meetings with the parents. There wasn't a formal contract put in yet. But then this contract, I actually built with my students. I asked them what they wanted on it and what they felt was a reasonable thing for me to ask them to do. And then this contract would be signed by the student, myself, and sometimes a teacher would join the meeting, and that's why there was always a teacher spot. And then once this was done, it was always sent home as well to the parents, so they know what their child is agreeing on. And then the last thing I created was a goal setting sheet. This is to help us see where the concerns were for the student. They would tell me what they were worried about. The parents would also let me know what they were concerned about. And then I would get updates from the teachers on where they were also worried. And then during this meeting, it was Zoom, of course, with the parent, the student, and one teacher would be present. And then that's when we would try and see what motivates the student to see how I can help them get to that goal to pass. A lot of them said it was sports, so that was great. And some of them was actually, they just want to drive. They want their license. So that was helpful to have the parent there, because then they knew what their goal was for their child, and they could help me from the home aspect of it. And then, on the back of this action plan was, we would pick a couple goals that they said that they could achieve. And that could be the peer tutoring that we offer. It could be the homework help after school, staying after school with teachers, just checking Tyler to see that they are missing something. A big one that students told me that they needed help with was sleep. So we put sleep on there, that they would try to get to bed earlier than they were doing. And then this would also get signed and sent home as well with them, and then the parents had a copy as well. That's all I have.
Does the board have any questions for Dr. Mayo or Amy? Yes, Tyler.
I got a couple of questions. So on the forms that the students are signing, if we're about a family engagement with the parents, how come the parents aren't signing this along with the students?
That's a great question. They could. Yeah.
And then the other question I wrote down is, I didn't understand the comment of glad I was standing, not sitting.
Some of them are just not engaging, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And they need work. I mean, you can sit there, if all of our teachers were exceptional, would we be at 78% now? Probably not. I'm just being honest. You know, so everybody needs work. I need work, they need work. You know, and there are some exceptional teachers at the high school, and there are some teachers that need some work. And that's what we have to do. We have to build every lesson should be somewhat engaging to kids. It shouldn't be, there's no more stand and lecture, that's dead. It has to be, they should be moving, there should be a component to them that gets them up, gets them going. I mean, all the studies show that if a kid gets up and moves around a little bit, that kind of invigorates the brain, gets the brain going. So I would say that I have walked in a couple where it's lecture. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I'm in here for 10 minutes, and I'm a little bit bored. I can only imagine how a 17-year-old kid, 16-year-old kid is. You know? Yep.
I have a question. On the creation of your pathways that you had talked about, there was a lot of things, the culinary, the law, all these different opportunities. How much of this is active now, and how much of this is several years out?
The college piece, we're looking at to start in 2022, 2023. The vocational component, 2023, 2024.
If you need any assistance with Anna Maria, let me know. I'm on their board of advisors.
Very good.
So let me know.
Definitely. Thank you.
I'd like
Yeah.
to follow up with what Tom said about having parent engagement on the as a signature. As a parent of teenagers, my kids are accountable to me and my wife, and I know other teenagers and other parents. Parents need to be engaged, and I know a lot aren't, and it's something. It's a team effort. It's got to be a team effort.
It is, absolutely.
But to have them be accountable as well is on paper would be great.
And they are part of those meetings too that
Yes.
set that up.
Yep.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Thank you.
One thing I had noticed over time, I have two high schoolers, but they go to two different high schools. So I have one in Turlock and one in Ellis.
Mhm.
And the amount of emails I get from Ellis teachers is like astounding. I'm like, oh, another one. And I just read them, but I have yet to get any type of correspondence from any Turlock teacher.
I'm currently working on that, to the
Yeah.
point of I gave up department meetings
Yeah.
to have my staff reach out to parents.
Right, so.
That's gonna be an expectation.
Right, so as a parent
Yeah.
on the board, I can definitely see that they're checked out. So if they're checked out, students are gonna be checked out, parents are gonna be checked out. So it's like, we all have to be working together.
I just think that, and this is again, I'm now an insider, I was not an insider in the fall, but I think coming from where I came from, we needed to have parent engagement, because if we didn't have parent engagement, kids weren't gonna be successful.
Right.
And when I tried to tell, and when coming in, I came in kind of hard of, we need to parent engagement. And I think that previous, and I'm not trying to point fingers, throw people under the bus, but I think previous administration didn't emphasize the importance of parent communication. To the point of, I'm telling them if they give them a prep, they should be taking that time and reaching out to parents. I'm not gonna put you on duty, you need to call a parent, you need to do things like that. So I'm really trying to push them into that parent communication. We have some things that we're thinking about that we're working on for next year as far as a way to monitor that with the staff. But yes, I agree. Yeah.
Do we have better systems in place to track these students that kind of people don't know where they are and if they're coming back, not coming back?
So as far as attendance, as far as like homeschool, that type of thing?
Yeah, because I know we lost a lot through the COVID process. However, I don't feel confident that we know who's really truly out there and should be in school and should be in school.
So what I have is so for this year's class, so the class of 2022, I went back to their original freshman year, and I took from my counselor what she had by October 1st for her class that year. And that's what I'm working off for this class as far as what we have. So if they're not currently in my school, or they haven't transferred to another school that I'm aware of, those are the students that we're trying to reach out to re-engage.
And my other question would be, how many diplomas did you find in the drawer?
A handful.
Do you have a number?
After I picked up about this much, I did not want to count, to be completely honest with you. And it wasn't just last year, it's been over years now.
Are all schools on the same algorithm or requirements for how you calculate who stays in school, who's going to graduate, who's not going to graduate
Yep.
with this?
It's actually a federal, it's not even a state thing. So federally, it's the October 1st grouping of their first year in high school, and that's what sets their 4 years.
So if we have somebody move out of town,
Yep.
that goes against us?
No. So Tom, if they move out of town and they go to another school,
Yeah.
and then we get the thing, we send their file to them, then what happens is next October 1st, it shows on there, so it shows as a transfer. It takes it off of that cohort and then takes it onto their cohort. So they'll take,
So, all right, so any movement out other than,
you have to, so what you have to do is in order for it to be switched over to another school, that school has to be a diploma program, so they have to be able to earn a diploma, so that's why GED doesn't work. And they have to have their PIMS down on October 1st. So what happens is they'll pull them in there when they see them on that data. Or if they went there as a senior and they graduated, on their final graduation data that's submitted to the state and then submitted to everyone, they will see their name and their SACID number there.
so even our program that we have at school where, I think, what is it, up till they're 21?
Mm-hmm.
The transition
Transition.
program.
Transition, even if they were to get a GED or a high school equivalent degree, that doesn't help our numbers.
Their transition program is a little bit different, and that would be, I'd have to work with Dr. Jones on that one, just because it's a different classification being the special needs. So I'd have to look into that one. I've never, to be honest with you, I've never had to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to play with numbers,
No,
but
no.
it sounds like there's more things that go into
There's-
the number that are,
There's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of they could leave and go to a private school. We'd have to make sure it gets coded. The other piece that has to go with this is our own coding. And I've been working very closely with Heather and Danette and trying to make sure that as we code each kid, we code them properly. Because if a kid doesn't get coded, the kid gets coded as a GED. When they're not a GED, they're going to high school, they automatically take that as a dropout against us.
And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes.
the 3 students that are in transition graduated, correct?
They've already graduated.
So they're
Correct.
part of that, okay. So they're part of a previous year's code.
so with that, but we don't go back and correct the number, or
They-
we can't go back.
I think they would have, I think when they would have graduated, they would have been part of that number, right, Dr. Jones?
Correct.
Yes. So they would have already been, they would already helped out your previous year's graduation rate.
Yeah, so that's not a dropout in any way.
No, I know, but who really goes back and looks at 3 years? You know what I'm saying? I mean, the number is unfortunately, when it comes time for budgets, people are looking at all the numbers.
Mhm.
So whether they get changed 2 years down the road, no one's gonna remember that.
No, yeah.
You know, it is what it is today when the vote happens.
And when I got the graduation rate, I got the state to give me, this wasn't my class, 2021, but I got them to give me the cohort that they went off of because I didn't have it, I wasn't here. So I asked them for the cohort, and then we went line by line. I sat and went line by line each one to make sure that each person was gridded correctly, and actually one person wasn't. So we petitioned the state and had that person switched over, because that person had dropped out, but then re-engaged later on, a year later at a high school, and it was Killingly High School in the other district. And yet they never went back and recoded that kid's SACID to Killingly. They left him as a dropout on ours. So we talked to the state, had the kid then give it over to them, and then they changed our number back, so it bumped up.
And just a couple of students can make a huge difference.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of the point I was trying to make at our last meeting when we were on Zoom. That we start, freshman year, and I didn't realize the problem was this large, and it's a daunting task to take it on. I somewhat feel, how do I put this? When you refer back to previous administration, well, we have previous administration here, and the board is, so I feel somewhat part of all of this and not getting this fixed. So,
Well, and just to.
whereas I
yeah.
appreciate everything you're doing, there's a lot of it that we didn't necessarily know about.
And I'm not trying to spare.
neither did I.
And I'm not trying to spare the board or anything like that, but what I need you to understand too, though, is I found these things out. I went to the superintendent. I said, what's going on with this, what's going on with that? And the superintendent told me that my predecessor had that in place, had this in place, because that's what was told from them to the central office. I then went to the people that were involved with that, and they said, Nate, no, that's not. What? They never did that. Whatever. So there was a miscommunication, if I'm being politically correct, in what was happening at the high school and what was being fed to everyone in central office and the board.
I get it, but
Yeah.
the buck stops here, right?
I understand. I
Right,
understand.
right,
Yep.
and so, whereas the superintendent's responsible, so is the board. And we trust that you're going to move forward, and I'd like to see a report, maybe not monthly, but every couple of months on your, what's going on here, because I didn't realize that it was this deep, big deal and touching all kinds of different areas. There's a lot of moving pieces here.
I mean, we found this year that there were students taking English 9 for the 3rd time. So, I mean, that's insane if you're, so we're a small school, right? So then you're repeating the same instructor. And so we have to provide an alternate class for that child because they're not being successful where they've been. And so Apex came in handy, and now if we're able to tap into the QBCC classes next year, that'll be an alternate for those kids if they weren't successful in a specific grade level.
That's a good point, because if a kid fails your class and then has to go back, and then the only option they have is to retake you as the teacher again, the mindset of the student already has already failed his teacher. What's going to change now? I'm going to fail the teacher again. And because of, obviously, the budget's been strict, and we know that, and it's just a fact. And we've been so limited on teachers that there's no other option. So I fail Ms. Consola, I go back to Ms. Consola, and my mindset is, I already failed Ms. Consola, why am I going back to Ms. Consola? It's going to fail again. So it starts the
And
habit.
I'm sure Ms. Consola kind of might feel the same way.
Yeah,
Is,
oh, I'm sure.
I'm gonna do
I'm
this,
sure.
I'm gonna try
So I'm gonna
this.
have to, but there's no fresh start, you know what I'm
Right,
saying? So for
I
her
get
and
it.
him, it's like,
As long as we're talking about Ms. Consola, what is your background? I mean, you have a huge job
Yeah,
here,
I
and it sounds like
do.
you're getting some success already.
Yes.
So it looks like that's going well.
I am also a licensed guidance counselor. So that is my previous experience with high school and elementary. So I worked a lot more with behavioral kids though. That was my big background, and then I switched to doing more high school, which is academics. So I'm still a little new into the academic side of things. But I think coming from the elementary side, I got to see like them starting and where they came from, and then now I'm at the end of their like career, and so it's exciting, I guess. But
Sounds like you're doing a great job, so
Thank you.
Just one more question. Do you feel that the parents are engaging the ones that you are meeting, or even the ones that you're not? Is there anything that we can do to engage the parents? Because, and again, I don't want to speak out of turn. Let me hear your first thing, and then it'll trigger my second.
Actually, I feel like the parents I've been working with have been really supportive and helpful. They're the first sometimes to email me, which is great, just for a check-in. I do try to check in with them every week or every other week, depending on where that student is, just because 42 students is a lot of students. And I get a lot of buy-in from the parents. They want to help. They will do whatever they can on their end. I have a parent send me weekly emails or nightly emails to say, just want to let you know we worked on this assignment tonight, and have him come show you in the morning. So I definitely am getting a lot of support from from the parents.
Any feedback from the parents?
I've got a lot of feedback from parents. They have been really happy that I've been there to work with them, because I can give their child a lot more attention just because I do have a smaller caseload. And a lot of them have said, like, I appreciate you because I haven't had this much communication before.
So, following up on that, how many cases were out of 42, and how many cases were the parents totally oblivious to how poorly their student was doing? A lot.
Most of them.
Yeah, that's
unfortunately.
inexcusable. That's
Yeah, unfortunately, most, or they didn't even know they were behind grade level. That was the hardest conversation, yeah.
It seems to be, and you mentioned it, a matter of trust with the parents and administration. And that's been going on for a long time, as far as I can remember here. So I don't know how you fix that. You got like a couple of months, so. But that's.
I was shocked that's what I got back is, previously we didn't trust the, what makes you so special type thing, and why are we gonna trust you, and well, it's a new person, it's a new mindset, it's a new vision, can we kinda get on board, that type of thing, and that's been a lot of what we've been trying to work on is, and a lot of that kind of fell to Abby just because of the role that she has and her connection to kind of, like, look, here's my proof, look, here's someone who's gonna call you, every day or whatever, talk to you about your kid, make sure your kid's on point, but it has been a struggle. I mean, it's been a pretty big struggle.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, that first step is
Yeah.
to get people to buy in and trust it.
And if I can, then everything else would probably fall in line a little bit, at least a little bit easier, you know?
So I wanna, reiterate the same sentiment as Bill. You know, you feel somewhat in the dark about the whole thing, and I don't think we understood it to be as far-reaching as it is with so many interworking components. But I do have a question for you, Abby. So, of the 42 initially, you said you got 22 back on grade, right?
Yep.
Did you find from the 22 that you got back on grade, or all of them actually, was there a pattern of like a top 3 issues that they all had? Was it attendance? Was it, you know, just didn't get along with the teacher? Was it time management? I know a lot of kids coming even through school systems starting elementary on, we don't teach very good time management.
Yeah.
Did they tell you where their problem, or did you assess where their problems really lie?
Yeah, a lot of them said a lot of them have a lot of absences, so that's a big issue. That's why I work really closely with our school social worker. She's normally in my meetings just because we have the attendance piece as well. But a lot of them are repeating classes and they feel that they don't have the support of the teacher because they already failed them. And that was the thing where they just withdraw and they're done. They don't wanna be in that room anymore.
So sometimes it's just a personality thing too, right? They
Yeah.
have a confidence.
Yep. And that's why we also started offering Apex for a lot of those students that were repeating classes that might need that fresh start.
And what are you doing for the other, say, the other 20 that aren't back? I mean, are they severe? Are they close to getting back on track?
A lot of them that aren't back on grade level right now, we're working on trying to get them to pass where they are now. And they're actually doing really well. Some of them are still failing, but our grade to pass each semester is a 60. So a lot of them are falling in that 50 range, which is, for them, that's a big improvement. But then they're gonna have to probably do some summer school this year.
So I know for us, it's a unique situation because we have such a small high school, so 42 students in like Baylor School would be not as nominal as it is for us. So you know, we have to take that into account. Now, are the students, do they feel like I think we need to really work on confidence with these kids too, because they're just not, they're not inspired. They probably look at going into school as another day of nothing, you know, like, how do we get their spark back? Do we create like a reward system, find out what they like to do? Do you like to go fishing? Let's create a fishing club. You can come if you're passing, you know, like stuff like that. Give them something to reach to.
To be honest, now that the mask mandate has dropped, I have seen such an improvement in students. They're so much happier. You see them laughing again with their friends. They'll just walk in to say hi to me now. Like they're so excited to be here. It's different. And I have actually one particular student. He came to me last week just to tell me, "Did you see my grades went up?" And I could tell something changed, and I knew it was probably the mask. And just for him to notice, that's a big thing. And that's what I'm seeing, there's light again. That's what it was. And, you know, a lot of the students actually ask for a mental health club after school, just for a place they can go and feel supported. And so myself and the school social worker have started that, and we do that twice a month for any student that wants to come and just have a nice place to sit for a half an hour after school.
Another thought I had too with like students and kids, how to get them both engaged with each other. What if team building with students and teachers were done? You know, open up the gym and do obstacle courses.
So we're looking at, we're not there yet, but we're looking at taking our half a days next year and doing something. Deb Spinelli, myself, and other teachers are working with Deb and Spinelli. I'm working on that right now, about doing something in collaboration, built around student-teacher collaboration. Because I think the biggest thing is if we build relationships, and I've been trying to tell them, I taught for 12 years before becoming an administrator, if you can build a relationship with a kid and a kid will buy in, they'll do whatever you want them to do. You know, if they feel like you care about them, they're gonna go to the wall for you. So that's what I keep kind of telling my staff is if we can do this, if we can build these relationships, you're gonna see a lot of things come out of these kids that maybe you didn't think could come out of these kids. So we need to work on that. Yes, they need to feel like they're important and that they're our priority. So that's what we're working on. So actually, Deb and I met about it the other day, and we started outlining some things, some stuff we want to do as far as collaboration between students and staff on half days.
Two of the driving words today are self-worth
Mhm.
and that people matter. You know, that's a big thing, particularly for kids, that going through the last 2 years of what they went through is, I mean, we all know it. We have high suicide rates, I'm not saying here, but within the nation, and those are the two driving forces right now, that we have to make these kids understand their self-worth, gain their confidence back, and allow them to know that they matter.
And to piggyback off that self-advocating,
Yes.
my freshman, she's very shy, she doesn't self-advocate, and I say, if you're behind on something, you need to reach out to your teacher, you need to, so I think again, confidence is a big thing that we need to be, probably starting in the earlier grades too, but just them learning how to advocate, like, it's okay to ask your teacher for help, or it's okay to, and I think we need to like really drill that into the kids, like, you will be heard, it's okay, you know.
And that's what we're trying to advocate for them, but in the
Yeah.
process, try to show them how to do it. So it's almost
Right.
like we're taking them by the hand and releasing them
Right.
afterwards, saying, guys, this is how you gotta go to a teacher,
Right.
this is how you gotta do it. So that's
Right.
one of the things. I mean,
And that's one thing I've actually worked with some of the students that I work with, because that's a problem. They're scared to go to
They're
the teachers.
terrified,
And so a big thing our teachers have said to them, if you're nervous to come to me, send me an email. And just starting with that starts the communication.
Right.
And so I've worked with some students on that, and I actually will go with them to meet with the teacher, and I don't even say anything, I'm just there. And to them, that's enough. They just need somebody that they trust, that they can have support from while they talk to their teacher. So, and I've had that with a lot of kids that even aren't on my caseload. They
Right,
just come in
right.
looking for support to go talk to a teacher,
Right.
because they're a little
Stuff
nervous.
to do, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have a tough job, okay? And I'm gonna say something, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. At some point, we're coddling. And unfortunately, the real world, you live or die. You either succeed or, I mean, you don't have a chance to choose, you know, and I understand that. And that's why I'm saying it can be taken multiple ways, what I'm saying. You have a tough line because at some point you can't continue to reward because you have to start moving our students into adult situations. I don't know when that is, I don't know how it is, but we have changed the dynamics of a student immensely. And it's scary because I think they're gonna be shocked when they get into the real world.
and to be honest with you, I mean, I've been in education since 1999. And, you know, and back then, it was a much different world of education than it is now. It really is. We didn't have TikTok. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have, when I grew up, I didn't have any of that. I had the phone.
No, you're right,
like this.
there's social media pressures,
So
you're
it's,
right.
it's a much
You're right.
different world. Our kids have been conditioned much differently. And what I try to tell the staff too, and one of the things we talked about was time to make up stuff. As an adult, if you miss a car payment, you're not gonna come repossess your car.
Right.
You just have to pay your car payment, you pay a fine, you pay a little bit of a thing, and you keep going. And so what I'm asking our kids to do is, yeah, if you don't get it in on time, that's fine, you're gonna get a penalty, you're gonna get knocked down, but I want you to do the work. And that's the one thing I won't do. I won't ever hold a kid's hand and say, you're gonna get this, don't worry, I'm gonna give you this grade. No, we're not doing that. You need to earn it. I'm gonna show you how to earn it, we're gonna earn it. It may not be the full grade, but once I show you how easy it was to do it and get partial credit, now next time, just do it the right way and you get the full credit. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here at the high school. And I know what you're saying, it's a
Yeah.
much different world. It's
Well,
a
I mean,
much,
once
much
they hit
different-
college, there's gonna be new dynamics,
Yep.
or even if they don't go into college, they go into the military, guess what?
Yep.
There's no leniency, so
No.
I mean, it's, you know, it's tough, but it's like, when they graduate, all of a sudden, it's gonna be reality slaps them in the head.
I think too, for parents, and I can say this, it starts at home, and that coddling starts at home too. We
That's
as
why I was
parents
asking,
have-
are
yeah.
the parents engaged?
Right, because my husband and I were having this conversation about our 20-year-old, like, she had to get tires, and she was beside herself that she had to talk to the tire guy, like, she was like, didn't know what, and I'm like, you are so smart, but you can't talk to, she just could not, and I was gonna do it for her, my husband's like, she's 20 years old, she gotta figure this out, and I think just as parents, we just, at that moment, let's do what our kid, you know, and we've forgotten to like let them be self-sufficient,
Self-engaging,
you know,
or
self-independent, you
whatever.
know, like we just
Yeah.
don't, and I think we have to acknowledge that too, as parents, that we are coddling them just as much, and that was a slap in my face, I'm like, this kid, kid and drive to Worcester every day, but she can't talk to, you know, like, it just.
She could text them.
Right, she can text them, I'm right outside your house with your money, but, you know, so.
She'll
it's-
Venmo the money, don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Is this, were you finished with Dr. Mayo?
Oh, it's just, yeah, I mean, it was good dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you for
Appreciate
your work.
Very,
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
very well done, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll continue on now with our administrator report. And we're gonna do this alphabetically. So this will be way out of order. Bill Birch, you're up first.
All right, wow, I'm gonna be quick, because Tom took most of the wind out of my sails. Beyond that though, springtime's here, we're starting to work on the fields, get the fields ready for, springtime athletics. The fence contractors are on site, the security gates are going in. This weekend, we had a little mishap with a boiler down in the elementary school, so the firemen were all on site. We had a lovely Saturday afternoon here, but there was no real damage. It was a mechanical failure on the boiler. It was a little smoky. No real complaints anywhere.
At least the fire system worked, right? Fire alarm works.
Fire alarm worked, yep. The phones all worked. Everybody got here, so, but, you know, no harm, no foul, other than that.
Been a question, in a situation like that on a Saturday or Sunday, and the fire alarm goes off and all the firemen get here, who opens the building for them?
Well, so, first of all, when the fire alarm goes off, all the doors open.
Oh, okay.
The doors unlock.
Okay,
Beyond that, the firemen have keys.
okay.
If there's, we had activities going on in the building.
Well, I
So,
understand.
so
this
there
time
were
of
some
year.
doors open. If for some reason there were not, and the doors were all physically locked, they have a Knox box, they have keys, they can get in. And if they didn't have their keys, the firemen can always get in, believe me.
Well, yeah, they break some windows and.
Wait a minute. Can you say what you said the first part? When the alarm goes off, all the doors unlock
Oh, yeah.
from the outside?
If unless the building is completely closed and we have physically locked all the crash bars, fire alarm goes off, everything opens. That is fire code. Nobody's changing that.
Wow. Okay. I'm not a terrorist, but boy, I just heard something right there that's alarming. I know it's a state code, but that's alarming.
Well,
We have
I
68
understand we put
doors,
in those
right?
special doors.
But we have 68 doors in the school or whatever it was.
More than that,
More than
it's like
that.
72.
That's a lot of
Does
doors.
that happen when
the
someone
alarm
pulls the
goes
alarm
off,
too
that those things
inside?
are open.
Yep.
So if a kid was inside pranking and pulled an alarm for an
Every door
outside
is open.
intruder, that they would literally unlock every door in the school?
Right, so.
That's alarming. I mean, not against you, no. But that's alarming.
You have the fire department and police are gonna be here, so I don't. what's
No,
the
I
big deal?
understand that, but you have 68 or plus entries to this school that have now become completely unsecured.
But if there was an intruder, we would lock down the school and then those doors would
No, but you
unlock.
missed the point. Pull the fire alarm.
Yes, we know that. That's a vulnerability.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, somebody needs to talk to the state about it.
Yeah,
Well, I can just say, Kathleen, there has been endless conversation with the state and with the NFPA regarding this issue since 2004, 2005, and they don't budge. And in their world, life safety comes first. When the fire alarm is active, the doors are open.
So I have a question. So this weekend, the Little League was here, right?
Correct.
So who's ever in charge of Little League, are there also the janitors and that, like, do they get those kids out? When you arrived, were the kids out of the building with these leaders?
They were.
Okay, good.
So, you know, whenever there's an activity, there are custodians around. I don't know if we had security folks on site this weekend or not, but I had people here, and they hear the fire alarm. Their first job is to get everybody out, even those who are reluctant to leave, that wanna go back and get their stuff, and,
I have a
and,
phone call into them.
and they do a pretty good job.
Yeah,
I have to say,
my
people
thing,
do a
Bill,
pretty
is like
good
if
job.
there's someone in charge of the Little League, do they understand the protocol? If they're using the facility
They will
without alarm?
tomorrow.
Well, it's.
Excuse me? What did you say?
They will tomorrow, I have a phone call.
Well,
into them, yeah.
Val, if you've ever been here when there's been a fire alarm, nobody really needs to understand the protocol. There's a very annoying woman that comes
Yes.
over the loudspeaker
Yeah.
and tells you over and over and over again to leave the building immediately.
It just makes me go back to a time that I spent with my kids on vacation in Boston at the hotel, and the alarms are going off. I'm the one running outside, and everyone else is like, nobody is leaving. So I think of the same thing here, like if you have somebody put in charge, do they, from the Little League, do they know, listen, we have rules, we have protocol, maybe we need to reinforce with who's ever coming to use the building that there's certain protocols to be followed. Maybe they're not so sure of the protocols. That's something I think I would.
They were a little
question.
resistant, that was the information we got, so we need to remind them of those protocols.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much, Bill. Heather, you're up next.
Sure. So the civil rights data collection was completed and submitted this month by Danette with the help of the school administrators. She also submitted and completed the mid-year ED 165, which is the state discipline report. I'd like to say thank you to Bryce Pratt and also Thomas Edwards, because they've put in a lot of work up in the auditorium, getting the sound and the lighting working correctly, and they fixed out a lot of bugs in the system for Beauty and the Beast and other things. It's taken up a lot of his time, but he's done a great job. And he does a good job at all these meetings as well. We pushed out all the SAT testing app to all the high school laptops. That's happening on the 23rd, I believe. We uploaded the student rosters into the state system for the Smarter Balance testing, which is, I think, happening in May. We uploaded all the rosters to the new teacher and student rosters, the new Naviance program that they're working on in the middle of the high school. And we're also working on a timeline to upgrade our financial system, Munis, because the system that we're currently on is end of life in January 2023. So we have to upgrade to a couple new versions. So we're looking at doing a test environment upgrade in July and then going live in October. So that will be a big step for us as well as the town, but we'll have plenty of training and testing, and it should go well, I hope.
Heather, is that part of the same system Amy introduced to us at the tri-board meeting?
I'm not sure, I wasn't at that meeting, what was that?
No.
No?
No, this is their accounting system. What Bob uses.
So we just hung that over 2 months ago.
Okay, next up is, Bob.
Okay, just one apology on the report. I have the month, January there for the cafeteria. This is actually the numbers of February, the end of February's. Just as an aside, we got $100,000 in grants from the cafeteria that were receivables. So that brings us down to $50,000 in receivables. That just came today. So the money is actually coming through the cafeteria. It's just running a little bit slow, but the year-to-date computed operating position with that, even before that money came, was $114,000 in the black for the year for the cafeteria. So because of the reimbursement rates are much higher than they used to be, we're doing pretty well in the cafeteria. As far as year-to-date spending, we are at 98.99% with the encumbrances and spending added together compared to last year was 98%. Tuition and transportation ticked up a little bit over last month, and it's going to probably go up just a little bit more with the addition of the out of district. I'm not looking at Chris to make him feel guilty, but I know he does feel guilty if I say anything about special ed. But it's gone up a little bit, and it's going to go up a little bit more based on the additional out of district placements. That's, right now, this is my last Board of Ed meeting. And I just want to thank Mrs. Smith and the board and the town for what has gone on in the last 4 years. I think that I was hired and I was given a chance to do a job, and I got to do it, and I was very happy. And I was very happy working with the board, and particularly happy working with Mrs. Smith and the folks that are working with her. It's kind of bittersweet. I'll be working closer to home, and their board only meets once a quarter, and it meets during the business day. It meets from 4 to 5. Who knows what day of the week, but it's there till 5 o'clock anyway. I'm looking forward to it. I'm working for Goodwin University. I have an 8th grader, and if he decides that he wants to go into what these guys offer for colleges, he can go there for tuition free. So it's an exciting opportunity. It's kind of bittersweet because I really like working here, and I like working with you folks. It's been a good time. But the last thing I wanted to talk about is the stuff that I'll get done before I go. There's a big report coming that has to be submitted to the state on IDEA. It's our biggest special ed grant that we get annually. It's about $330,000. There's IDEA 611 and IDEA 619. It's a pretty complicated report. It's due around May 10th. But I'm going to get all the difficult part from the financial standpoint is all the numbers that you have to do, and you have to prove that you're making an effort. It's a maintenance of effort chart, that you're making an effort to educate your special ed students. And it's based on this really bizarre NASA type formula set. And I'm not trying to oversell it, but I will get that done before I leave. That's what I wanted to say. Essentially, I don't wait till the last minute for anything, unless it's there. Well, not ever, but I rarely don't submit stuff early. So I want to make sure that it'll help with some anxiety that people are feeling about it. That I'm going to make sure I have that done. I'll also make sure I'll have my last board report done. We close out the books. There's no more. The payroll's on April 1st, so I can close out the month, and so you'll have March's numbers. May not have the cafeteria part, but they'll have March's numbers for you for the next board meeting. But I'll do those on my last day is April 1st. But I'll make sure that those are done. And any other outstanding reports, I got some stuff in Medicaid that has to be done. That'll be done before that. The Medicaid stuff, the day I get it in the mail, I usually turn it around and send it back out. So thank you, and thanks for the last 4 years. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, I just want to make a comment. I've seen a lot of business managers come and go all my years, and you inherited a mess, and you did a really nice job in kind of bringing it together, and you helped, I think, all of us, and me in particular, understand the budget a little bit better. And I think you did a great job. And if you stayed, we could probably get that 8th grader free high school here.
I was just going to say that we could have worked out a deal for free high school.
But thank you, Bob.
Yes, I certainly, as chair, I'd like to say thank you, Bob, for your dedication over the past 4 years. I know I've enjoyed working with you. We've had a good relationship, I think, and I know. I've been on the phone multiple times to you, always gotten an answer, and I appreciate that very much. And and I know the rest of the board has appreciated the reports, and you fashioned reports that make sense to us, and that anything we've asked of you, you've done for us, and I do appreciate that. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I wish you all the best in your new position.
Thank you.
And he's going to leave us in good shape.
Yes.
Which is, he's not leaving any loose ends untied. So I know the directors and principals, we all appreciate that.
Right. But I do have a question.
Before you leave.
A question for you. I'm looking at this operating position of the cafe here. Where do you have any feel for where we're gonna end the year end? You're saying the reimbursement rates are higher.
We're gonna end up at about the rate that we're at right now.
So is it possible then that we move their benefits into their account so that they're self-paying, like?
I was gonna mention that only because we used to do that years ago, but it was only half of the benefits, so it offsets some of that cost, but.
Why not move them all?
I mean, that'd be a discussion for.
Right, for another time, but we should look at that then, if they're gonna continue to.
I think what we have to make sure we pay attention to is what's happening on the national level. The reason that we have that computed operating position is because breakfast and lunch is free for all. And then, there's the reimbursement on that meal. So every time a student takes a free meal, we're getting that reimbursement. So when we go back, because it looks like on the national level that the free lunches are probably not going to survive, so I'm just worried about that number going down.
Okay.
So the senator from Tennessee is not looking to do that, fix that, yeah.
I would recommend waiting a year or two to see if this is a continuing thing. The healthcare cost, $165,000 is what the contribution is for the cafeteria from the board.
Okay.
That is.
That
I
answers
mean,
my question.
It's a significant amount, but I would think that, there's still a lot of cafeterias that aren't doing well in this area. Us being this far in the black is not what I hear when I'm on CASBO calls. The Business Association calls from the state. People are still struggling, but just to keep in mind, you shouldn't have more than 3 months on hand of operating costs for a nonprofit.
Right.
So you want to keep that in mind as well, but I'd like to be interested to see what would happen next year.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bob. And again, best wishes to you in your future endeavor.
Thank you.
Is Michelle with us tonight? Are you on Zoom, Michelle?
She was sick today.
Yeah, no, there she is.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. So I'm continuing with the interview process for several major positions for the town and the school, combined finance director, the director of public works, and then I will be starting the search for an administrative assistant for the Mary R. Fisher Elementary School. I'm completing various projects that I've been working on throughout the month. And then the school and the town have definitely adopted to having an HR manager. The requests that are coming into my office for guidance, help, and just help with insurance has tripled since I started. So I try to answer every question quickly and not let anybody wait. So thank you and have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So this month I'd like to give a big shout out to Mrs. Kozuski, who is our life skills teacher, and her class did a wonderful job dedicating to Black History Month. They did an outstanding job. Also, our big highlight of the month was we had guest speaker come, Chris Poulias, and big shout out to our assistant principal, Mrs. Polachek, who made that happen, along with Superintendent Smith, who approved that. The kids, I don't know if any of you know, but he's a motivational speaker, and he's an athlete on a cycle, so he came in and he was doing all kinds of stunts while giving some motivational tips to our students. They loved it, they were engaged. We had 2 sessions, big hit at the middle school. Also, I encourage all of you to go onto our website and look at the TMS first edition of the middle school newspaper. The kids, thank you, shout out to Mrs. Shore for staying after school and having a newspaper club. They did an outstanding job, very committed. We all were interviewed. So really nice, and it's been great to see the kids. I have to say, with, you know, most of our percentage are without masks, and they have been engaged. We can really feel a difference with the kids, and we're looking forward to a great spring here at the middle school.
Thank you very much. Shannon, do you have anything further to add?
Actually, I do. I just wanted to let you know that we are seeing an uptick in other illnesses. So if anybody asks, it's not all COVID now. We're seeing strep, we're seeing stomach bugs, and other things. Probably in the last 2 weeks, a little bit of it.
That's because we took our masks.
Colds, just regular old colds.
It's the time of the year, right?
Yeah, well, a couple more weeks, we're gonna be deep into the allergy season. I think it's gonna pose another hurdle just to get over.
Dr. Jones and Chris?
Yes. Good evening. Currently, our percentage of students under special education is at 24.49%, which is essentially the same as last month, which was 24.54%. Of the total population of 927 students, 227 students are receiving support in special education. Our 504 population is up from last month, which was 77, which is now at 81. Our out of district is holding firm at 27. Bradley School, Windham County is currently home to 21 students, of which 11 are Thompson students, 5 are Putnam, 2 are Killingly, 2 are Brooklyn, and 1 is Plainfield. We are currently hiring for 2 paraprofessionals, 1 in the middle school, 1 in the high school, as well as a district-wide speech and language pathologist. Elementary school completed their safety care training last week. We have 2 staff trained in safety care. Middle school started this past Saturday. We have 7 staff, I believe I said student staff, that are going through that process. The high school will be trained on 4-9 and 4-16. Security team will be trained on 4-23 and 4-30. And again, Caroline Karabianikoff, the social worker at the high school, is conducting that training. And as Bob said, IDEA Federal Grant Part B, it opened earlier than expected, which was last Thursday the 10th. So between Bob and myself, we'll be submitting that early. 611 is for students under special education, ages 3 to 21, and 619 is for students 3 to 5 in preschool. And then I know Tom likes to ask about unified sports, so the unified basketball team underway, doing well. We're looking at unified track as a possibility, and we're also looking at a possibility of playing a game or hosting a game against Putnam. They're trying to get a team together as well, so there'll be more to come on that.
Thank you. Dr. Mayo, Nate?
I feel like I just talked forever. So I would say this, because I'm sorry, on about 2 more bullets, I'm about to be talking again. So I would say the 25th, 26th, 27th, with gas prices being so high, you need a little bit of an inexpensive night out. Come see Beauty and the Beast. Our kids are working tremendously hard. Miss Anderson, Mr. Edwards are working tremendously hard with the kids. I'd like to see the entire community out there. I'll be there. Come out and support our kids. I think they're doing a great job. I'm really proud. So
I've already bought my tickets. So.
that's what I figured. Very good. Starting off very fun.
Larry?
Good evening. Just a couple of highlights here at the elementary school. Thank you to grade 3 teacher Megan Cresamano for partnering with Pat Cheever, who's the substitute teacher at the elementary school. They've been collecting empty water bottles, and the profits have been donated to Paws Animal Shelter in Woodstock, so it's a real nice thing. On Friday, February 11th, the elementary school participated in a school-wide Valentine's Day themed bingo event. So all 400 students on a Zoom, and we did bingo. That was a really neat thing. What a great way to pull the school together. The parent-teacher conferences were held last week, partly Zoom and partly in person. Very well attended. Great to see parents in the building. Got a lot of good feedback, and parents were just excited to be in the building again. It was nice to see them. Mr. Jones had mentioned Caroline Karabenikoff delivered the safety care training last week. Thank you to Mrs. Trish Tupai for once again coordinating the yearly Read Across America event for the students in the elementary school. She does a real nice job every year. Her students do a real nice job every year. It's just a great way for high school students to serve as role models for the elementary students. We're in a very small district, a connected district. There's a lot of opportunity there. So we really thank her a lot for that. And that's pretty much it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Deb, what's happening in the athletic world? We're doing our March Madness here, or?
What's that?
We're doing March Madness here?
Holy me.
That's me. I have my team. Spring sports conditioning week has started for high school and middle school. Zainab said all the sports except golf. Golf is one of the high school sports, so it wasn't in that report. They start next week, not this week. Also, our soccer team, girls soccer team, was chosen by the Connecticut Girls Soccer Association to win the Sportsmanship Award. So I have a couple of kids going to the banquet on April 10th at AquaTurf with myself to receive that, as well as Kaylin Griggs also won Connecticut Girls Soccer Association scholarship, so she'll be there to receive that. Carol O'Brien participated in, she's an all-stater for gymnastics. She made it to this week for All New England this past weekend. We don't have her scores yet. She thinks maybe she made All-American, but we're not sure because the scores have not been finalized. But she participated in beam and floor and all around. And that's it. I think that's it. Any questions?
Keep up the good work, that's terrific, Deb. Okay. So we're moving along to, unless any of you have any questions for the administrators, or we'll move on to old business. I think we did touch on the Vision to Learn update already. We did. Okay, so it's the high school restrooms update.
Dr. Mayo?
Yes, my comments were very quick. There has been a little bit of relaxing, and I'm sure if you ask Evan or Zainab, they can probably fill you in more on that. We aren't necessarily one at a time, but we're not letting large groups. So, we found a middle ground. I think I've talked to some staff, a couple of students, they're happy with the middle ground. I feel like everyone is satisfied with what we're doing now. And I think it's going pretty well. There really is no more wait. We don't have any wait situation or anything like that. And Deb can vouch for that. Deb's office is right outside of there. We don't really have an issue with that anymore, really.
The board did receive an update from Superintendent Smith on the situation recently, so.
I'd just like to make a comment that I've heard from parents and staff too, and true to your word, you relaxed it, so thank you. I think it goes a long way with the parents and to try to meet in the middle there.
And that's what I took the whole relationship thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, new business, co-op sports discussion and possible action.
So I think
Deb, Co-op sports.
wanted to talk about the co-op.
Yeah. I couldn't hear you.
Should be sitting closer.
Co-op sports. So our numbers for boys soccer for the fall stand about 6. So I contacted Putnam to see if they would be interested in co-oping with our boys. Problem is there's a max number of 14. I haven't heard back from them yet. Their girls soccer team last year did not have a number, they had 3. Those girls ended up playing on their boys team. I can pick up their 3 girls, but probably it's only 2 girls next year because one graduated, so that they have, those girls have an opportunity to play in their senior year. So I'm still waiting. I called again over there today to see if the administration, the AD's taking his time getting to the administration. But he and I have been communicating back and forth. So that's what I'm trying to do, have the girls come here and the boys go there. Because we had trouble fielding a team last year. We had 6 boys initially sign up. We beat the bushes until we ended up with about 14 kids. And then we're graduating 5 of the kids. So we're at 6, and a bunch of the boys that I normally would convince to play soccer are jumping to football. So there's no way, there's no way that we're gonna round off the numbers to have a soccer team unless we co-op with Putnam. So that's where we're at now. So actually the ball's in Putnam's court. We're ready to go. I talked to Melinda. We're all on board to try to do that. So I just wanted to alert you people, because once that decides, we have to have all the paperwork in by May 15th for the fall. So it's gonna be a quick turnaround if we finally get an answer. So it's gonna be hopefully a yes from them, so we can give the opportunity to our boys that wanna play. That's it.
Question.
Soccer's the only,
Well, we co-op already with football.
well, I know we
We
co-op
did 2
with
years
football.
go for golf, but we recovered our numbers, so we have our own golf team now.
Oh, terrific.
We did gymnastics, and didn't we do?
Gymnastics will be done after
Didn't we
this
do track
year.
one year? Was it track or, I thought we co-op with another sport.
We did co-op with gymnastics, 2 years ago with Killingly, but then Killingly had enough numbers in their own team, so we were a team of 1 of 2. So we had a team, called a team of 1, we had 2 girls. Our 2 girls that have done gymnastics for 4 years are graduating this year, so we will not have gymnastics next year. So we've graduated those kids through. So that's where we're at right now. I'll let you know that our numbers for girls basketball don't look very promising for next year, so we may be looking at Putnam for that too. They're struggling with numbers just like we are. So.
Question, and I'm gonna be like Tom, I'm gonna say something. That is, why can't we, or the state as a whole, start taking the position of mandating, like prep schools do, that you have to play a sport? At least one a year. Is there any push on by the state or the people that head like the CIACs? I mean, the numbers are just horrendous.
For us, because we're a small school.
No, I know, but I grew up in this area, so I know what the numbers are. I know how he played. I know, it just seems like we want our kids to be healthier, but nobody's willing to take the lead to say, mandate that kids have to have a sport at school so we can still have the teams. I personally think sports building is one of the key components of life. You learn how to work together, you learn how to improve, right? It's all the things we're talking about, life skills and all this other stuff that have gone away. And there's nobody there like pushing these things to happen. I would love to take a lead on something like, start mandating that kids have to do at least 1 sport a year. And I'm not saying it's gotta be only basketball or something like that, but they've got to get those numbers up because we're gonna just falter. There's gonna be, to me, sports are gonna be non-existent in school systems, and that's not, I think, a good thing, personally.
Well, the numbers at the middle school came up a bit this year because we've been beating down the bushes.
Yeah, but we gotta make that consistent. We've gotta get parents to get these kids to wanna do sports too. I mean, sports for me was a lifesaver. I probably wouldn't be where I am today if I did not play sports. But I honestly think that,
It's not just school, it's recreational levels.
No, I totally.
Our recreation, when I was the president of the Nikon League, we had 7 towns, we had 1,400 kids. Nikon now has 5 towns, and in total is 245 kids.
So Deb, I serve on the board for now, Northeast Opportunity for Wellness, and I serve on the subcommittee for programming. And exactly what you're saying, the numbers from every town, they're horrendous. They cannot get people to come out and do sports.
Okay, and so I'll put another caveat to the whole thing. So if we get our schedule, we play in the ECC. We get our schedule, and I can look at my soccer schedule as a coach and say, okay, I could possibly win 4 of these games. I got to struggle to get 2 more, 3 more to be able to make the state tournament. We have some schedules that don't help the size of our school to attract kids, because when they know that they're working hard to try to get enough wins to be successful, to make state tournament, to get some notoriety because they're doing well, you know already that it's a losing
They
battle.
lose hope,
Neil
don't they?
Neil can look at his schedule for next year already, know he's got maybe 4 wins he can count on. After that, it's a struggle. So now you got kids who are working, they look at it and go, I'm gonna bust my tail every night, go to these games and stuff, I can work and put gas in my car. God knows we need gas. It's very expensive right now. So there's a catch. There are things that don't really attract the kids, plus there's no real big push from home. And they also like to do this, be on their phones, and they're into TikTok and all that kind of stuff, rather than actually move physically. Come to my gym class and you'll see. Come to Andrew's gym class and see how they move.
We need to do something.
You know, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, being a 4-year, 3-sport athlete, it's a shame. And I don't know where and how it all got lost, because there was pride when we played. If, you know, we had tryouts, you had cuts.
Success breeds success.
You're absolutely right. But
So why do you think I have numbers on the girls' team?
because you have a successful team.
We're relatively successful.
Yep.
Our numbers are starting to dwindle with the kind of level of player I have. So I don't foresee that for the next, we might be able to sustain it for a couple more years, but after that, we're gonna be right where everybody else is. So success breeds success. If the kids don't think they're gonna feel good about it, or their team, or the kids are gonna come out to watch them play.
I mean, look, it's sad. I mean, I've gone to how many basketball games over the years, and I keep telling my kids, and I'm sorry to get emotional here, but when we played basketball, if you were not there a half an hour before the JV game, you weren't getting in. I don't care who you were. You were not getting in because that place was mobbed.
They were on the stage,
Correct.
8 deep on the stage.
Correct.
And all the bleachers were full. I
And it's a
remember.
shame that our kids would never experience soccer games. They were lined up when we played. Baseball, sitting on the hill. I mean, it's nuts. And our kids never got to experience that. And it's a shame, and I'm sad about that.
I also think the East Coast is different. I spend a lot of time in the Midwest, the Northern Illinois region, and I can tell you, they do things differently. They have an athletic foundation. Kids the sports teams are full. If you're on a sports team, you've got pictures outside on your lawn that you're representing the football team. There's so many different things that engage the family. But I'm sure from Deb, you also don't see the kid that played on the street softball because that's what they had to do, and they've got progressively better, right? You probably don't have the caliber of athletes coming through that you would normally going through a NECON, right?
There's no, for softball, for instance. Last league has not been in existence for the last, I think, 8 years, maybe 10 years.
This year we're combining with Woodstock because Peyton's playing rec.
Right, but as far as having a Lassie league in town, my kids
don't have
played
one.
when we had it in town.
Right.
We had 4 teams. We don't have that anymore. We haven't had it for the last 10 years. Lisa Bodro was the last one involved with Little League because her daughter was playing, and once she left and went to Marianopolis, that died. We don't have that. We haven't had middle school softball for 2 years. So just think of the level, the kids, we had 25 girls sign up. We can't carry 25 girls, but the level that we have that are gonna be playing, I've got 3 coaches there to try to hopefully bring some kind of skill. It's a very skilled sport. I mean, there's a lot of parts to that game. To get those kids so they can get on the field and not get hurt, besides, against another school.
Yeah, because it's mental as well.
Are we seeing like a decline, not only in numbers just because everybody loves to play on their phones, and I get it, parents are busy, my schedule's insane, but are we seeing a lot of it, any of it being cost related, where parents can't afford cleats, shin pads,
Nope,
pads,
because
gloves?
if any kid said that, we have a fund here.
Okay.
Tommy's father is one of the ones who made a donation. We have a fund here for any kid that has that issue. We have a fund that we can go to and draw from. I think we've only drawn from that twice in the number of years that we've had it. But somebody said that they needed to have some support, or if I see they weren't capable of doing it, I say, look, go down and buy them, come back and we'll just reimburse you. That's 2 kids. So that's
not the issue,
excuse.
it's just.
And there's no pay to play here. God help us if we ever went to that, you might as well forget everything.
Do high school
teams work with the middle school teams too, to kind of like create like the, you know, excitement of playing and like the confidence to play. 'Cause I
We
think
don't
that's a lot
come
of
down,
it too.
we don't cross levels to play.
Yeah.
But the middle school people have brought their teams to high school games.
Right. Or have like a practice where the, you know, the high school mentors the middle school or something, just so to intercrossing, because I think a lot of it's confidence too.
Did this all go south though, like after COVID? Because I mean, when we didn't, like, before COVID, I know we had the issue with the budget, and the middle school had to drop a couple of sports, didn't they, at some point, budget-wise? And then, so we didn't have that opportunity. Then COVID hit, and now to get everyone kind of energized to want to do this again is hard to bring them back. But it's like, once we are able to have, I think, spectators at events, concessions at events, other kind of spirit kind of things to kind of drum up interest again, do you see that we can
Well,
pull those
hopefully-
folks that used to be energized back, or?
Hopefully,
Yeah.
the other thing you have to think, it's a numbers thing too.
Mhm.
You've got two coaches, for instance, softball.
Right.
You can't carry 25 girls.
Right.
Because if you carry 25 girls, they're not all gonna get to play. And so then think about that parent. Well, I'm not bringing you or picking you up. We're gonna keep the extra kid. They're not even gonna play anyway. So it's a vicious cycle. So you try to pick the 15 kids that you're gonna have on the team that are gonna be successful for that group. And hopefully they'll stay and go through. Another problem is some of our 8th grade basketball group of girls this year specifically. There's 5 kids that would really help our high school team. Of those 5 kids, we're getting 1. We already know they're leaving.
Could we develop, instead of, like, I know, like, what you said, like, you wanna have players that are gonna be good to play on the team. If there were people, though, that maybe weren't developed enough to really be eligible to play on the team, could you still have, like, a team to develop so that they could then be good enough to play on the team? I don't know.
You mean like an intramural you do in college type of thing?
Kind of.
JV.
Well, not necessarily JV even, but just, you know, like, they won't necessarily play other schools or whatever, you know, just to develop their skills so that they could
So it's
potentially.
on club level to try to get the
Right.
kids to show up.
You're right.
We haven't been able to do that, but
Do we lose any rankings or statuses in the ECC or anything like that if we went to a club level? I mean,
we can't play on the ECC.
can't.
I could say, let's say for instance, we didn't have enough girls next year for basketball.
Yep.
I could say that we are not supporting the team and we're gonna run just the JV program. But a lot of schools are going to schedule against the teams that have varsity and JV, so
Right.
like pickup. So you know who you're gonna end up picking up for. I'd probably have to play freshman girls against NFA and East Lyme.
Our game wouldn't
because-
count for their record, correct? Because we're non-sanctioned or whatever you wanna
Right.
call it.
Mhm. And we wouldn't be able to play at the varsity level, we'd have to play a lower division, wouldn't matter about their ranking. Would matter about us being able to even compete with them.
Just sad.
We need to bolster the rec programs to get, that's what our feeder around here is.
I'm hearing rumblings that even Legion Ball is,
We have no
sub-
senior legion right now.
Yeah.
6 kids out of 3 towns.
Which-
6.
That used to be such a competitive thing.
Again, I mean, it was, you wanted to be on the team. You know what I mean? Just like here, you wanted to be a Tiger. You wanted that jacket, you wanted the sweatshirts, you wanted the swag, and it was pride. When you went to other towns, they knew who you were.
This
It was pride.
isn't just from COVID, this is going on before that. That's
Yeah.
why I started the varsity club, because we had to have kids that would play, because it's such a small school, that would go multiple seasons. So the reason I had started the varsity club is those kids are on the bubble, I don't know if I wanna play softball or not. They wanted that jacket in their senior year, so they stuck it out so they had 10 or more varsity letters by the time they got to the senior year. They get their name on the banner, and they got a jacket.
You're right.
And that's why we did.
You just made a point, which I was gonna make. You know, we started this give everybody a medal, very young. And I think what you just said now is they had to really, if they wanted that, they had to work for that, right? They had to stick it through, even maybe if they weren't the best. But we started very young with giving everyone a medal. And I'm sorry, I do feel competition sometimes is a good thing. It makes people have that drive. Do you also think our numbers from our high school faltering has contributed as well, because we don't have as many
Right.
students to pick from?
So right now, you got 217 kids. Split that in half, so you got about 111 girls, 20-something boys. All right, so we're running in the fall, we're trying to run cheerleading if they want to jump in the co-op, cross-country, girls soccer. Out of 111 girls, how many you think are athletic in a small school? So you got kids that are playing that are not athletic, but we're getting them out there. So I've got 22 on my team. There's 3 girls running cross-country. We didn't have any cheerleaders this year. So out of that 100 and something girls, you've got approximately 35 or 40 of that group doing something. There's not that many left over. We don't have numbers. When I started here 2 years ago, we had I think 420 kids in the high school. In the high school. So then when you're drawing from 225 girls, it's very different what you're being able, you actually can pick a team and make selection. Right now, if they show up and chew gum, they're playing. And you work with what you have.
And I also think the rumblings are, if you are going to start pairing with other schools for your sports, you should pair and be regionalized. That's also the rumblings that I hear, because the numbers that have faltered, and I know you have proven people wrong, but it's those types of things that get people within the community talking. They don't have enough people to support a team, students to support a team. We've got to go from pairing up with the Putnam, and then that's what people start to say. The numbers have dropped. Those are things I think we have to be in tune to the fact that people within the community are already talking about.
But I do like a small community setting with our kids up in the high school, because we know all those kids and they know us. And I think when they finally get whatever he's got rolling up there, it's gonna make a big difference, because we know the kids. I think it more importantly on this athletic side is, why can't neighboring schools that are supporting numbers not have to worry about 14 on one team to be able to put both groups together? Because, okay, think of this. If we get our 14 boys, our 6 boys to play with the 14, there's 20 kids, okay? That's great. We can stay together as long as Putnam's numbers don't go up, so that we don't. So they can support our numbers. If they go up above 14 by themselves after that first year, usually they give you 1 year, sometimes 2 years. Say it's a 1 year. The next year, if they got 22 kids, those 6 kids that are already vested that time can no longer play. Even if we put both schools together and had a varsity and a JV, we would be a little bit more competitive to try to get the bottom. Right now, I would bring, if I take the boys team and I con 7 freshmen to play next year, so we got 14 kids to play. What's gonna happen is, you're not gonna be competitive. Those kids are so young, they're playing against 12th graders, 11th and 12th graders. They're physically outmatched. They're never gonna really improve because their skill levels is not matched with the level that they have to play against. They either get hurt or they don't really improve to the level that they need. Because you're never gonna get enough kids to play JV and make a JV program, because you don't have the numbers, and they're not getting the positive effect of the whole process, because your numbers and who you're playing against. Even when we play against Putnam, we struggled last year. We got beat both times, and we're usually pretty close.
And I don't think the rec department is drawing the kids either, so.
Well, I think we're very fortunate to have the opportunity to partner up with another school, if it is a possibility, because it looks like we wouldn't have this board,
I just hope that they
can
are in favor of following through with it.
Right.
We need that.
We saw the success with the football team, so, it can happen. Yep.
I mean, listen, I'd rather have them co-op so they still play.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, again, growing up in this town, and when I look at my dad, 3-year state championship in basketball. I look at Sean Brissett, state champion, Deb state championships. It's a town pride thing, and I mean, I'm beside myself tonight about this. Honest to God, I'm sorry, but no, I understand. Well,
But
what
there's
do
also
you
this.
call yourself?
Well, we play under Putnam right now because for you to invest over there, to go through the whole, like when we did the tryout with football, that was a big, huge process to go through to get multicolors for all towns to be happy with.
Right.
For football's very expensive. We knew we were investing. To do that for soccer, where you're gonna change your uniforms and will probably only be 1 year because of their numbers, each town can't afford that. We'd have to jump in and play with their colors.
So Deb, when you have your athletic director meetings, are other districts having the same type of
With
issues?
numbers?
Yeah.
Smaller schools. The smaller schools, they don't have the larger schools and medium schools don't have the same kind of problems that we have. They don't have the numbers issue. NFA is drawing from 2,200 kids. We're drawing from 210. NFA's indoor track team was bigger than our entire student body. They had 215 kids on the indoor team, indoor track.
Did a lot of this happen when they redid QVCC?
Well, I mean, Deb and I tried to, we tried to correct some things, or enhance it.
Right. The other thing is when you got kids, so let's just say that if those 6 boys, when I tell them they're gonna play for Putnam, I'll bet you half of them say they don't wanna go and play there. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
The kids, they don't care if they come here, but that's for us to give it up and go there, they're not really in
Right,
favor of that. So I got those 6 boys to try to give them the opportunity, but that doesn't mean we're gonna have all 6 playing there.
Thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to correspondence. Does anybody have any correspondence? Open the floor to citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments from the Zoom audience here? Hearing none, I will remind all residents of Thompson that there's a town meeting on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Also, Board of Finance is discussing the budget. They haven't quite reached the, school yet, but they are going through the town's budget line by line. And, they're using a new platform this year, so it's a little bit different for them, and it's taking them a little bit longer. So, but I would recommend those on the board who haven't yet to zoom in and just to see the new platform that they're using and, to listen to some of the conversation. But I also would ask you that when we are notified that we are going to be on the docket, if you will, to please show up in person. It's being held at the Senate Room at Town Hall, so Zoomable, but I would request that when we are called to talk about our budget, when they start talking about our budget, that the board will show up in person and of course, on us. And those of you in the audience, you know, in case of any questions. But anyway, at this moment, I'll call for. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain?